Even though Yeonshin is the first to move, he is not the fastest in the run, as Chung Myung is zooming past him. Yeonshin wonders if what his senior uses is the noble race's mobility art, grass flutter. After Chung Myung, Mirio zooms past him next, and even Wonchong is able to move faster than Yeonshin currently. This makes him realize his weakness because he wasn't able to train much in mobility arts. The lack of proper mobility arts experience from the Jung manor is giving him a huge disadvantage. On the other hand, the Blood Flame cultist is attacking the villager. They want him to give the child back, while he stands on his ground, telling the crying child to shut it. He thoughts because he is a child, he is full of life energy. Before the red-haired brute can do anything else, Chung Myung already arrives and comes at him with an attack attempt. Unfortunately, the red-haired brute is able to block Chung Myung's sword strike. The moment his strike gets blocked, Chung Myung goes to stand between him and the villagers in order to get them out of harm's way. Along with this, he also saves the child from the brute's hand. The red-haired brute is surprised to see that a martial artist from the desolate fortress came here, out of nowhere. Turning around, he now knows he is in a pinch to see another blue-robe martial artist is coming. That instant, he musters up the strength from his core energy and jumps off to flee before Mirio reaches him. Both Chung Myung and Mirio are surprised to see the red-haired brute flee instead of attacking either one of them. In the end, after looking at how fast he is, Mirio thinks his mobility art probably sacrifices his own life in exchange for speed. Before long, Wonchong arrives. Even though he is faster than Yeonshin, his physical condition is worse evident by how out of breath he is compared to Yeonshin. Chung Myung then gives the child back to the parent before they go back to rest in the night. A little while later, Wonchong gets an earful from Mirio, saying his martial arts skills are all right for a white robe, but his stamina is lacking. So she tells him to improve his stamina more from now on. Yeonshin expects some scolding as well, but Mirio praises him instead. His basics are surprisingly well trained, to the extent it's rare to find someone like him even amongst the 9 great sects and 8 great clans. She noticed it when she saw him run without using any technique. Just from his physical ability alone, there's probably no one in the Radiant Demon Squad who can hold a candle to him. She then points out to Chung Myung, saying a frail and thin member of a noble race like him can never be Yeonshin's match in terms of physical abilities. Chung Myung is laughing, as he tells Yeonshin to not be disappointed about not knowing any mobility arts. Even after being told such words, Chung Myung knows that Yeonshin is somewhat disappointed. So he approaches a tree and offers to teach him the mobility arts that he uses. That surprises Yeonshin, because he knows Chung Myung's mobility art is his exclusive skill. So Chung Myung explains that it is not the martial arts of his household. Instead, he is going to teach him the way those from noble races move. Normally, people wouldn't be able to do it even if they knew how it works. Chung Myung just thought Yeonshin might be able to do it. He then tells him not to be happy yet because no one in the Radiant Demon Squad was able to learn it. Mirio joins in, saying Chung Myung already taught those in the Radiant Demon Squad who wanted to learn it. However, no one succeeded in learning it. Before long, Chung Myung demonstrates how the movement is done. As he is saying while he calls this a mobility art, it doesn't really on anything physical. Yeonshin is able to see there is energy at the tip of his senior's feet, and there are no sudden movements in his core energy. Right after, Chung Myung uses his mobility technique to run up the tree, while saying that is how the noble races walk and run. Yeonshin is able to understand that his senior's footsteps are light, and if he couldn't see him, he would be invisible right now. He is also able to understand the sacred methods of the noble races, which wasn't performed with core energy, but something similar to core energy that was supporting his body. Even when coming down, it's as if he is a leaf that's falling. Chung Myung then asks whether this junior of his gets it. Yeonshin is thinking about what he can do to use core energy to create wind since he doesn't have authority like the noble races. Chung Myung is confused about whether Yeonshin is really able to tell that it's the energy of nature just by watching. Yeonshin simply states that he is, before he asks back whether that is why he showed it to him. Yeonshin thanks Chung Myung before he racks his brain up thinking about ideas. He starts rambles on and on about how he should do the technique. Knowing it would take a while, Wonchong gets inside and gets a place for them to rest. Meanwhile, Yeonshin immediately cultivates, trying to figure out a way to use what he has and create a mobility art with it. Before long, he was finally able to get a concrete idea of how to use his energy, like the energy of nature his senior possessed. Outside, Chung Myung peacefully sleeping on a hammock tied up to a tree, before he wakes up by the sound of the door creaking open. It is Yeonshin, who goes out in the middle of the night, completely ignoring Chung Myung sleeping by himself. He goes to the middle of an open area before he gathers up his inner energy into the tip of his feet. Chung Myung is completely appalled by how Yeonshin is able to replicate the technique he uses before even the night passed. A month passed by in a flash, and as Wonchong was training, he sighed. It's hard to believe that Yeonshin learned the noble race's mobility art. Chung Myung expresses that no one can deny the fact that Yeonshin has the qualities of a martial arts founder. Even their captain chose to focus on his own mobility arts until the end. This reminds Mirio of what Ma Jin said to her, a reminder to see for herself if Yeonshin is someone worthy of becoming her superior. On that note, Wonchong then asks whether it is all right to send Yeonshin alone on the mission. Mirio tells him that the enemy is the one who should be scared and stay inside for one more month. Besides, it's just a reconnaissance mission, so Yeonshin alone should be sufficient. Meanwhile, Yeonshin's heart is full of joy as he feels lighter on his steps. The proportion of speed and amount of effort put in can't even be compared to what it was previously. Before long, he arrives in front of a wooden house. After running for a few hours, he finally discovered their hideout. He just needs to go back and inform the rest now. Suddenly, he sees something horrifying. A cultist from the Blood Flame cult is sitting leisurely as he sucks the essence of a young boy. This, of course, goes against everything of what Yeonshin believes in. So Yeonshin decides to show himself, calmly approaching the man. The Blood Flame cultist asks who this young man is, to dare approach him in broad daylight. A gluttonous smile appears on the man's face, looking at the brazen young man, full of energy of life here. Out of all places, alone. The man stands up, reaching for his sword on his waist as he approaches Yeonshin. He laughs joyfully, knowing a mere white robe from the desolate fortress is alone. Yet, before he could swing his sword, Yeonshin's blade already went through his neck, decapitating it. Just like always, Yeonshin only needs a fraction of a second to perform a decisive strike, taking one's life. He then looks at the kid. Fate seems to be unkind to him, despite being so young and meeting such a gruesome death. This reminds Yeonshin of how his family was massacred and met the same fate. Yeonshin then gathers his core energy into his sword, going to strike the wooden house in front of him. He promises to bury the child after all of this is over, because there is no way for him to allow anyone from this demonic cultist to continue living. Just like how Ma Jin taught him, by gathering his core energy, he sees the path of attack toward the wooden house. Right after, Yeonshin performs a magnificent sword Oro attack, slashing the wooden house in half. One of the Blood Flame cultists gets swept away by the horizontal sword strike, while the surviving members are freezing in place, and can only wonder what is happening. Yeonshin is not waiting for them to come out, as he has already gone toward the wooden house. Without giving him a chance to fight, Yeonshin stabs his sword into the man's heart. With that, Yeonshin states how the Blood Flame cult members believe the weak are prey to the strong, and now they are being killed by someone stronger than them. After finishing with one guard outside and two others from inside the house, Yeonshin finds there is a cave leading deep underground. He can feel a lot more energy coming from inside the cave. This can only mean that this is not just the hideout of a few Blood Flame cultists, but a branch of the Blood Flame cult. Before long, a group of them came out running, one of them screaming that whoever dared recklessly attack this place would meet their death. Yeonshin notices the first Blood Flame cultist he met in the village. Instead of running away after knowing this is the branch of such a vile cult, Yeonshin decides to stand his ground to fight them. Using the newly acquired movement technique, he goes straight toward the middle of the group before he performs a deadly sword dance. None of them would ever expect to see a white-robed martial artist from the desolate fortress do anything to them. Yet in only a single breath, they are being sent to make their maker. On the other hand, Yeonshin thinks there is no way a small group of people like them gives off this much of a vile aura. True to what he is thinking, a voice comes from deep into the cave, expressing how unbelievable it is that a white robe of the desolate fortress causes this much destruction. Looking at the shadow figure in the cave, Yeonshin is now certain this dreary energy doesn't belong to the guys he was slain. A tall man arrives before him, and Yeonshin determines that this guy is on a completely different level compared to those he fought so far. Yeonshin heard that when a part of one's body returns to what it used to be, it means this person has reached the level of being able to refine their core energy. Yeonshin grits his teeth as he realizes the man in front of him is the strongest person that is in charge of this place, the branch leader. From what he knows, they're called Blood Master Swordsmen in the Blood Flame cult. Looking at the tiny, young, and tender boy in front of him, the Blood Flame cult branch leader expresses how he will use Yeonshin's pain to strengthen his blood.